Welcome to the Backstory Podcast. For the listeners, my name is Jacob, and I'm one of the ministers here at WCC. And this podcast is designed for helping members of the church and outside the church to get to know some of the backstories of the people who go to church here. Everyone has a great story that we don't always get to share, but this is a perfect opportunity to share those. And for the listeners, I am joined by somewhat longtime members, Chip and Tina Murdock. Chip and Tina, thank you for carving out some time to have this conversation with me.
Our pleasure, man.
I just want to jump right into a question that I don't even really know fully. And that question is, where are you both from originally?
Originally, I was born in upstate New York and moved to Ohio when I was about 2.
Now, so upstate, so we're not talking Long Island.
No,
we're talking about the part of New York no one really talks about.
Exactly, yes.
Chip, you're originally from Michigan, is that right?
Mm-hmm. I was born, believe it or not, in Bethesda in Cincinnati, the one right next to White Castle for Martin Luther King. Yeah. I was born over there, man, and then spent my first 7 years here in Ohio, and then my formative years up in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti, Michigan. So that's why I'm a diehard Lions fan. You know? Okay,
well, but you were born in Ohio, which means there's some good in everyone, right?
Absolutely. I tolerate you Ohio folks, man. So it's because it's part of me.
There's a little Buckeye in his heart.
Yeah.
How long have you both been married?
We just 24 years.
I just put you to the test.
Yes, 24 years, man.
Great job.
I knew as soon as I said that, Tina was going to look at you like, this is a test.
Sometimes he answers that with really great confidence incorrectly.
It's a classic.
Here's another test. How did you both meet? Do you remember that story?
Yeah. My version is that we met right here in Wilmington, because I was going to grad school at Miami and was just about to move to Nashville, and met Tina before I took off to Nashville, met her at the church. The way we met, I'll actually step aside and let Tina finish that one. So
I like to tell the story that we got to know each other while I helped dress and undress him behind a curtain at church.
Wow.
A little more detail is that he had started a puppet ministry, and we only had 2 or 3 puppets that were kind of handcrafted, but they had to play several different characters. So while he was puppeteering with one hand, I was changing the outfit and wig on the other hand. And so they would be different characters as he went up and down.
How old were you guys at the time?
I was 24, 25.
You were, yeah. I was pushing 30, 31, something like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you started a puppet ministry.
Yeah, man. So I started this puppet ministry because I did it at Oral Roberts. I always loved the Muppets and stuff coming up through high school. So I go off to college, go to ORU in Tulsa, and they have tons of ministries, right? Every activity is a ministry of some sort. But I joined the puppet team, bring it back here. They bring me up into the church, in front of the church, and say, hey, this brother's starting a puppet ministry. We need volunteers. This pretty young lady steps up, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's kind of pretty, man, and she likes puppets. That's a wife.
Thank you, Lord, for starting this ministry.
Yeah, exactly. Then one of our first dates, man, she gave me a drum. So I knew she was a keeper, man. A Ludwig acrylite snare for you techies out there, but yeah.
So I don't even tell this too much, but when I was in junior high, I got involved with a puppet ministry. I traveled around Ohio through the church. And we thought we were rock stars because you had to load up the van and we would go to nursing homes and play puppet shows.
We did the same thing, man. We did it in Tulsa, nursing homes, parks. We just set up in the projects, man, in the park and run some power out and boom.
And I don't regret it because that was a big thing.
Loved it, man. And, the people, everyone loved it. I don't care what age you were, people loved it.
Yes.
And among his many talents, he wrote all the scripts too for it.
Nice.
the characters kind of became beloved in our church, and they were just kind of like, what is going to happen to Malik next?
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah, man.
We had some puppets that were, we handcrafted them out of tissue box, believe it or not, and we used them as blacklight puppets. So you would see the blacklight faces, and that's kind of what we were known for. And we prepared this whole show for the blacklight puppets, and we went to the nursing home, and they refused to turn the lights out. So all you see is just crafted tissue boxes.
Yeah, they were useless.
What were yours made of?
Everything. We had 1 or 2 legit puppets, but we had like a foam block that we had literally cut and made a jawline out of it and grooved it out and flap, you know, and that was one of them. I think I might have handcrafted another one, but we got a hold of some.
One of them had duct tape involved.
They sure did. They sure did. Paint, duct tape, everything. Man.
Wigs, yarn.
Do-rags.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
So you buy him a drum.
No.
I didn't buy it. It was I had a snare drum that my cousin had given me because I thought drums were pretty cool when I was young, till I realized I didn't have any rhythm. And so when he came along, I was like, oh, he would love this drum.
Yes.
And he was kind of cute. So
yeah. And if she says drums are cool, you're like, that's a keeper, right?
Keeper, Jack. Yes,
how long have you played drums?
Since I was 19. I was actually in the Army when I committed to playing drum kit. But before, I used to play like hand percussion, bongos, and things like that in high school. So I came up an informal garage band route. And then I got serious about my formal education after I got out of high school and was in the military and stuff. So I got real serious about studying music after that.
So you said you were going to move to Nashville. Was that for the purpose of drumming?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, yeah. So I did. I moved off for 2 years to Nashville, but to keep me buoyant, I went to grad school and went and got certified K through 12 teaching. I'd already had a master's, so I front loaded everything. So in 2 years, I got my teaching certification and dropped out. But yeah, that kept me afloat somewhat. And I proposed to Tina, and she had the audacity to challenge me to get a job. And I'm like, I got beats. What do I need a job for? But so long story short, that's why I moved back up this way. And she had the job.
So because correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually did some touring for a while with some bands.
Mm-hmm.
Was that before or after you met Tina?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Both,
that was the reason you challenged him. Okay, get a real job.
Man, yeah. We were. I mean, I had played a lot of groups and stuff like that before I met Tina, but when I got to Nashville, I started hitting the road with this rock band, believe it or not. And we played the Chitlin circuit, man, pretty much from Atlanta through Mississippi route. We hit New Orleans once. And we were going out probably 2 or 3 weekends a month. And then one time I told a lie and told her we were going out, and actually a friend of hers set her up. So I actually drove up this way and proposed to her, Jay Alexander's, so that's how we were.
It's very sweet.
Here we are. So yeah, man, the touring thing was cool, but the stability was what really mattered more. That's why I came back this way.
All right. Now, to kind of shift things a bit, I've known you two for coming upon 10 years, probably close, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
What led you to Jesus? I think that's a great question that I think a lot of people should know. And how did you two come to Jesus?
I grew up in church. We went to the Church of Christ in Martinsville when I lived in Southern Ohio. We went to a church in Northern Ohio. Out of a pretty questionable experience at a church, my mom kind of stopped going for a while. And so when I went to college, there was kind of this space where I was self-discovery and that sort of thing. And then when I was 21, I just really came back home and came to Christ and got baptized as an adult.
Okay. My mother was exploring humanity. She studied anthropology at U of M, go Blue. And so she was taking us through a myriad of different religious experiences and things like that. But my grandmother was the anchor. She was a musician at her church, at the Baptist church, all of our lives. So all my uncles and aunts came up through the church. My mother had Christian roots, but we explored a bit, so we veered off and came back to Christianity later. Well, my point of salvation and surrendering was I was in basic training in the Army as a 17. And so that's where I, down in Louisville, believe it or not, because we were at Fort Knox. Whatever reason, they decided in the middle of basic training to bring us to church in the middle of a week and have a variety of show in this basement and gave us some sloppy joes and everything. And then this guy just spoke the gospel, man, and boom. And that's when I committed. And then I got baptized later, probably a few years later in California.
I'm a sloppy joes and Jesus. That's the dream.
You can't beat it.
That's the dream. So, I mean, I know you mentioned your grandma, some other people. I don't know if this would be that for you, but who are some influential people that may have helped lead you towards that decision, or who has helped you along your walk with Christ?
You mean back then or now, or just
anything?
Oh my goodness. So many mentors along the way. But I mean, you raise a child up the way they should go. They won't stray far, right? Mm-hmm. And so my mother didn't stray far. My uncle didn't stray far. It was always around us, right? And we always had, a connection to some type of church in the sense that it was always part of our community. So always had that influence there. We didn't always go, but you knew where Reverend Wall's church was in Ipsy and all this stuff. So that's in Michigan. But there were several people. I think in the military, there was a brother who walked up with me when I committed my life to Christ. His name was Derek Stinchcomb. I'll never forget him. And then going to California where I got stationed, I became affiliated with the Church of God in Christ, which is a real big denomination in the but the Pentecostal African-American faith. So Pastor McGee there was great. I got a dear friend now I'm still good friends with named Stan Wynn. He was a bass player who convinced me and told me I was a drummer before I was, before I even realized I was. And another friend named Sam McCoy, who's a minister now. My dear friend Mike Freeman, who's a keyboard cat. He's a pastor up in Urbana, and Phil Terrell. And I don't have best friends. I call them a council of seers. So I have a council of seers, right? And then they're just they're the ones that give me all good advice and mentors, and coaching as well. Mm-hmm. So I can go on and on. But and Pastor Harris here in town and Curtis Somerville, the pastor at Bible Missionary Baptist Church, who's all have been supportive, and not a lot of just unspoken folks too, man. There's a lot, but
it's humbling when you really start to sit down and think how many people God brings into your life.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Tina, do you have a long list?
Not as long as that. My mom most definitely was the most influential, and my childhood best friend has always been just a real solid rock for me. Her name is Jamie. And then when I was in college, the person that ran the apartment complex where I lived was actually Pastor Harris's wife. Mm-hmm. And she was very instrumental in my going to that church. And that's actually where I met him. So I feel like everything was the perfect path. So
I tell you what, it's just humbling, again, to hear just how many people can steer you in the right direction. And speaking of, you said earlier, if you train up a child the way they should go, they will not stray far. And several of your children has not strayed far because they come here to church with you. Mm-hmm. Tell us about your family.
All right. Very unique family, man. Blended family, and unapologetically, we're proud of who we are. But Tina and I met. Tina had the girls already, mm-hmm. So I met the girls when they were about a year and a half, and I married them when they were 5.5, I believe, something like that. So I joke around lately. I just say, when I was in Nashville, I was part of what they call a rescue spouse program. So they rescued, pulled me from the streets, nursed me up. But and then I had a son prior to our marriage. His name is Caleb. He's 25 now. And when we got married, Seth is the glue. Our youngest son is Seth. He shares blood with everybody in the house, et cetera. A little backstory on my family, man. I told you my mother, again, was really into anthropology, right? So we appreciated a lot of diversity before it became a sexy term. And my biological father was in the Marines, so he's a vet. And in my family alone, in my nucleus, my biological father wasn't around much, so my mother and my maternal side raised me, but my grandmother was physically scarred and burned over probably 70% of her body because she lit herself on fire when she was 7. And old cousin Jeff rescued her, but and this was in the 30s, okay? So it wasn't sophisticated graphing, right? So grew up seeing a physically disfigured grandmother. I mean, everything functioned, but she had all these graphs. Right. Had an aunt in the same house who was deaf. Had an uncle in the same house who's gay. And another uncle who was just doing his thing, right? So, and then we had neighbors up and down the street. So I just learned all that was my family. So I had all this diversity in the family, man. And so meeting Tina's family, didn't matter what color or whatever, we just melded together. So when our families came together, our mothers, you ought to see them. They're the same height. Their birthdays are like a week apart, same age. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But that's a little bit about the Chip side of my family. And I've got a brother and sister, younger siblings, Raymond and Sheree.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that?
Not really. I was just thinking just about our family unit. One thing is that when we did blend our families together, we committed to never having stepchildren, and so our children have just always been our children.
Yeah, or half. It is for that. Yeah.
They're just siblings and just kids.
That's what it's about.
So where are all your kids right now? Because Caleb's in New York, right?
The girls are local here. They teach in Wilmington City School District, and Seth is with us getting ready to start grad school, but currently a microbiologist down in Cincinnati until August.
Yep.
Whose gene did he get that from?
Probably hers.
That's great. And you have a grandchild.
Yes. Little Tate.
Just more glue, right?
Yeah. See, that's the other thing too, man. The universe has been very, very fair to us. I mean, it's funny. Our girls are biracial, right? And one married a black guy, one married a white guy. It's fair balance, right? But yeah, Tate is he's amazing. He's the son of Alexis and Tim, and he's 4. He just turned 4, and he's the most polite 4-year-old I think I've ever met, honestly. He's been that way since he was 2.
He's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
he is a lot of fun.
Just ask him.
Yeah, and of course, I've actually known of you guys a lot longer than I've been here at the church, because your girls, Sierra and Alexis, and I, that's right. In high school, we worked together at McDonald's.
Yes.
That's right.
And I love it whenever we talk about McDonald's, because we always get frustrated with how we see employees at McDonald's work nowadays. They fold the bags wrong.
Yeah.
And every time I go through the drive-thru, I'm like, oh, we could do this much faster. But I always joke, a first job's a first job, but yeah, I would say the McDonald's was one of the best jobs I ever had. So, and I do remember you two would come in every now and then. And so
that's funny.
When I started coming here to the church, I'm like, oh, yes, it all clicks.
Yeah, they talk about that, man. They said you had manager blood then. You were.
There was the people that we tolerated and the people we like to work with, and I think we were all normally on the drive-through team. So
that's funny, man.
We were the best in the state, I would say so humbly.
I did hear stories about how the girls used to pretend that they raced from one window to the next when customers.
Yes.
So they would think that it was one person instead
Yes.
of two. Yeah.
That's funny.
And I remember, I think they were up to become, one of them was supposed to become like employee of the month. And they said, we're not going to do it unless we both can be, and we can
Really?
pose as Siamese twins or
That's
something. And
funny.
That's pretty funny.
They didn't know. I've never heard that one, but that's funny. Our son, did you work there when Seth worked there?
no.
Yeah, he tried it for a little bit. He wasn't.
He did pizza instead.
Yeah, he wasn't equipped for the burger, so he did pizzas.
I think your girls and we quit pretty close to the same time, within several months or something like that. But so speaking of work, what do you both do for work? I know you're retired military, right?
No,
you did not retire. Okay.
No. I spent 6 years in total. Yeah.
Ask him what he did before the military
Besides drum?
or after the military. I'm sorry.
Oh, after, yeah. This was after, man.
Now you got me curious.
I was doing everything from selling Kirby vacuum cleaners when the Generation 3 came out with the Zoom brush fans. Yes. But the Tina's alluding to is my stint in the circus band. So I played the summer up in New York, man, at a place called The Great Escape. It's now Six Flags Great Escape, but it was an independent amusement park, and he had a circus band. And the great thing about it is that I learned how to play to a click track, right?
Yes.
But I'm playing 15 feet away from a cage full of leopards, you know, and leopards are a unique animal, man, and they're one of the only big game cats that kill for fun, right? And there was one leopard that always stared at me, and the ring, you know, the guy that tamed him. It's like, yeah, I think he wants to eat you. But yeah, I spent a summer up there, man, playing in Lake George, New York, Glens Falls.
I remember, I think it was the Ringley brothers. I think they were a circus that came to Cincinnati. I go see them, and there would be a live band that played. So that was you in New York.
Yes. And Ringling Brothers Band was top notch. It was incredible, right? And they toured. We were stationary, so we stayed in one spot. But the thing we did do, Jake, was we would march from one end of the park to gather to garner and muster up folks. We would march, and the ringleader, his name was Roscoe the Clown. He'd ride a unicycle with a placard or whatever saying, "Follow me to the big top." And then we, play Washington Post or something, marching behind him. And people would literally, you would see the entire amusement park follow us into the big top, and then 50 show, and then out comes the Globe of Death and the American Eagles and Liliana the Leopard Lady. So yeah, but God, it was 7 days a week, which is illegal to make someone work that, right?
Right.
And yeah, they exploited us, man. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was a bunch of college age folks.
So this was after you were married.
No. This is after
and
I
you
got out
still
of the
married
military.
him for
I
after
know,
that?
right? Well, I heard that story later. So
Yeah. I ain't telling. Yeah, man. But right now, currently, fast forward, I am employed at Wilmington College. I'm the senior director of diversity and director of service and civic engagement efforts on the campus.
That's a mouthful.
Yes.
So pretty much you run the show.
No, not even close, man. I'm down in the broiler room, man. Just stoking the broilers, keeping the machine moving. But no, I've been there 23 plus years and worked everywhere from enrollment management to I'm in student affairs now. And actually I'm about to change roles again and switch from service to doing like campus activities. And then that'll be along with the diversity piece. So that's enough for me, though. I'll let Tina tell you what she do.
I work in marketing and admission. It's not quite the long title, but yeah.
But I mean, just as important, right?
She's a professional graphic designer. She don't let the smooth taste fool you, but yeah, she does all that good stuff. So anything you see, like publications and things like that get mailed out or gifts on campus, a lot of those, that's her.
Comes from her imagination.
Yep.
So what you're saying is you're there on campus, but she makes you all look good.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Didn't your son-in-law, Tim, work for Wilmington College for a while?
He sure did.
Mm-hmm.
He worked in
admissions.
And then he also worked in academic affairs after that. Yeah, he became a
student success coach.
Yeah, success coach, where he helped keep kids on track academically, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
With him being an athlete, it was a great job for him.
You could probably mention multiple things, but what's at least one thing that is rewarding about your job?
From admission perspective, one thing that I love is to be in the part of the experience of helping somebody to find their path, whether that means that they end up becoming a student or that they decide that that's definitely not for them, but just being a part of, helping to make their future clear.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'd agree with Teen. Being in my area, I work with a lot of underrepresented students, and work with the entire campus in different ways. But we have a program called Tahimba, which is a celebration of our diverse community graduates from our diverse community. So, and those numbers for those graduation rates a lot of times are a lot lower than the majority population. So having those programs and seeing a student that came, from humble beginnings and the struggle and all of that, and be able to bring their family up on stage and they drop a cultural, we give them stoles to represent their culture. So it could be an international student, be African-American student, et cetera, an indigenous student. But when their family drops that on their shoulder, that's pretty heavy, man. So that's just one thing, but work with a lot of good colleagues, man. We enjoy it.
Now, is this something that you pursued career-wise or something that kind of fell into your lap? That's a position that maybe you just fell into, or did you pursue this?
I'm a licensed K through 12 teacher, so that should tell you. Music teacher. I'm a licensed K through 12 music teacher, man. So yes, and that it's funny how God will prepare your trail as you go down the trail. You know what I mean? And that's one thing, a lesson I teach is that no matter what your degree is, your education comes along the way and a lot of times outside of class, right? So long story short, while I was in grad school, I was, studying music composition and theory, but I had a grad assistantship at Miami that was recruiting minority students to their engineering programs, recruiting minority students to their applied sciences and paper science and all that stuff. I had no idea God was preparing me for recruitment at Wilmington College, right? So when I did come back up here and I tried to go into the teaching field, but things just didn't open up for me because for several different reasons, the college piece opened up. And no, I didn't pursue it, but it pursued me. It found me. And I feel like I'm in the right space career-wise right now for me. But
what about for you?
And he spent a lot of years in admission, and by association, I helped do graphic design work for him. And then after a lot of years, since I had done their publications for so long, it was kind of a natural fit for me to move into that position. My background, like he said, is in graphic design and media. And so, yeah, I feel like, all of that just kind of came to the, the perfect opportunity. And we are.
And you taught graphics there for how many years? For
about 14 years. I was an adjunct faculty. And we're like 2 minutes from each other on campus. We can meet at the bell tower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just go out for a walk.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit here.
Let's do it.
And I'm even curious about this. What led you to the Wilmington Church of Christ?
About 13, 14 years ago, we were kind of exploring some opportunities for youth programs and visiting some churches in the area. And our kids love the youth programs here. And so that was one of the major things. And Chip has always been a musician at church and was kind of also looking for a little space from that so we could sit together as a family. And he plays drums here now, so.
Did you at least get that space at first?
For 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, I was going to say a couple weeks. Yeah, it was a little while.
The day we saw Rachel Bennett up there just singing and doing her thing with no drummer, I'm like, what's up with that? Yeah, that's pretty much why we made the move. We really wanted to make sure our kids were being fed, and nothing against the church we were at. It's just that this program was, and I'll drill down another layer too. I think personally, I was very comfortable and complacent being a musician there, right? You sit up, you do your thing. But, when I know my wife desired other things and she, the service aspect of the WCC was really attractive. I think one of the first weeks we came you were doing a food pack or something where I think we weren't here long and y'all were doing a food pack for Haiti. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
That excited us. And, just making sure I had to get out of my comfortable bubble and be unselfish and make sure that, my family was fed because, Lord knows they sacrificed many days and things like that for me. So I think that was part of what really was convincing me is making sure that everybody was taken care of.
What year was this that you came here?
Was it 11 or
No,
before?
It was
9?
in 2009, 2010,
Okay.
somewhere around in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
When we first started visiting. And I'm not actually sure what year. It was within a year or so that we joined.
Yep. Yep.
So
Well, so fast forward to even nowadays, what are some things you love about the church?
Well, I love
Not that there's this huge list. I'd like to think so.
some of the things that I love is I love that there's always a good message that's well thought out, well studied, and I love that there's always an action item to walk away with. I love the video production crew. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I love the congregation, how just down to earth folks are. I love the music aspect. I love the opportunity to be able to serve musically. And I really like and enjoy the staff members. I really think everybody's just down to earth. And when you guys delve into things, you do it right, from your technical equipment, things like that. I always appreciate that because I'm kind of a techie myself. So I just love all that. One thing that really I appreciate about the church is that being a brother, being African American, being a black man, for those who haven't met me yet, it's just I was embraced by the congregation, and it kind of took a while because there were some folks that you were obviously that were obviously uncomfortable with things, but it works out, you know what I mean? And there's not few of us here, but the congregation is
Have
cool.
you seen a lot of that change over the years being here? Because you said some people might have been uncomfortable, or
yep. People speak and everything. Yeah. It's they just know that we're just part of the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I love some of the things you said. Especially like, did you say the preaching's good? The video production, and a lot of it speaks into the leadership of the church, right? The eldership, because when we talk about things like doing a podcast or having a video production crew, eventually they're like, okay, well, what's it going to take to do this thing right? Let's not just have something just to have it. If we're going to do something, let's make it quality worth. And so that's what I love about our leadership team.
Yeah.
And you two have, in many aspects, we've already touched on a few of them, but what are some of the ways you've been involved in the church, serving or any other way?
Gonna go first, Tim?
Well, serving on the video production team is probably the thing that I've done the most. And then here and there, working with the youth at VBS and sometimes back in Jump Street.
Yeah. And you were one of the first crew to ever be on the video team, right? You're part of the original.
The original.
We decided that we're going to do this. It was nice because, and you can back me up here, some people don't believe us when we say the volunteers, they're just that. They're not professionally trained.
No.
They say, hey, I want to do this, and we train them to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
But she already has some experience and knowledge coming in, and so having Tina come in is like, we're ahead of the curve.
I brought my 20-year-old experience with me and was like, yeah, I know how to frame a shot, sort of. That was about it.
Yeah. I've been obviously involved in the music ministry. And when we first got here, we were in a small group, but our schedules just are so disparate, man. We just don't have time a lot of times for that. But our kids are involved in different small groups, and they're involved in the children's like nursery ministry or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but I also in 15 I went to Haiti with a group here from the church, which was a great experience.
Yeah, that's right. You did go on that mission trip. What was that experience like? If you want to just touch on that.
Eye opening. It was a great experience. I mean, it was eye opening. It was humbling. It was reaffirming. Hot.
Yes.
Oh man. And realistically said, we can make it sound great on paper and then say, yeah, we went down and built homes and all this. I ain't built nothing, man. I passed bricks to the guys that were building the homes, and you make relationships, you try to meet people and just love folks where they are. I enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed the fact that Lifeline seemed to be more about empowering people than just being, these saviors that come down and do all the magic for them, right? But they had people employed, Haitians employed at the place. They had Haitian teachers. They had all that. So that's what I really appreciate about that.
One of my favorite pictures, I don't know if it was a picture, maybe a video I've seen, was footage of you teaching kids how to play bucket drums.
Yes, we did that. Yes. Yeah. Me and Seth, man. Yep. Sure did. And those kids had rhythm, man. They picked it up like that. It was great, man. We had a good time with them. That was fun. Yeah, I do remember that.
I remember when I showed up here at the church, within the first few weeks, you were drumming, and I'm like, if I was to get back involved and play guitar in the music ministry, I said, I want to play guitar with him. It seems like he knows what he's doing.
Right on, man.
And we both played together for years.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm still impressed how you could play guitar with those big hands, man. You got bass hands, man. Yeah, man. You sound great too, man. It's fun.
I love serving. And also, something that just came to mind was that the beginning of this year, you gave a message in one of our 5x5s.
Sure
that
did.
was earlier this year.
Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah. Have I done one or two? I think I've done just one. Or
yeah,
two.
I think you done one. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Sure did. Yep. And you know what I used to do? Dale would have me do announcements every now and then. I would do the welcomes and all that good stuff. But yeah, I sure did do one of those 5x5s.
I love knowing your family and seeing how much they even serve. Your daughters sing on the worship team. Your son-in-law, Josh,
yes,
great drummer with the worship team. I remember when you brought him to a practice one time, he was unsure, and you're like, yeah, you need to do this. Like,
no,
yeah,
did I?
You do this.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
So a little fun story is that Chip taught Josh how to play drums when he was 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Just a little guy. So he was just little tiny Josh, and he was teaching him how he has kind of some really neat techniques on how to teach little kids how to drum. And so he's one of his prodigies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now, was he just interested in learning how to drum, or was he also interested in a daughter that was there?
When he was 6, it was just the drums.
It was just the drums.
Yes.
Because she was just pretty little.
Yes.
That interest came years later.
There was one service, I think it was maybe last fall, and it was the first 5x5 we've ever done here. And for those who don't know what that is 5 speakers giving their best 5-minute messages. And both your son-in-laws, Josh and Tim, was speaking.
That was great.
You were drumming. Alexis was singing.
Was she that day?
I believe Sierra in the first service was on camera. You were the whole crew. And we do have a nickname for your family. It's called the McWeederdocs.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So we said the McWeederdoc crew is running the show today.
Right.
But no, it's just a great testament though to seeing kids and stuff serve. And
yeah, man. You can't ask for more.
Yeah.
I mean, anything more. We always said to our kids, just be functional citizens in the United States of America. Just be functional. That's what we ask for. And we're blessed that they all are, man.
Yes. Well, I have a final question as kind of a send-off, and that is, if you could give listeners a piece of advice or an encouraging word, what would that be? Now, I know there either is a lot to choose from, or maybe your mind just ran blank.
The first thing that came to my mind is to just always continue to grow in your relationship with Christ and grow in everything you do. Never stop learning.
Mm-hmm. From a marital standpoint, never forget the power of forgiveness. You know what I mean? Ooh. Forgive your spouse every day. You know what I mean? And because we're going to make mistakes but just a lot of things have power, but forgiveness has power, right? And then from a personal standpoint, I would say focus on everything that has to go right for you to be where you are. Not what goes wrong, but count every day as a blessing and just be appreciative of everything that's gone right.
And it's amazing. The advice you give is opposite of what the culture teaches a lot today too. Culture doesn't always teach, hey, forgive your spouse, right? Count every day as a blessing. Yep. And that's great advice. And so I just want to thank you both for being amongst the first crew to launch this with. Count that as a blessing, I guess, if you may. I do. And so, and we look forward to seeing what comes out of this. And I know God's got some blessings in store. And so far, the stories we've been hearing, it's encouraging words to everyone. And I know our church family will be blessed. So thank you both.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. You guys, you're on the right track, man. It's nice, nice setup.